officially live on YouTube for the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show, the JWB Rental Lincoln Property of the Week. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, is the man that I graciously like to call GC because of his genius concepts, because he knows how to generate cash flow, because he's a great co-host, and because his name is Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you too, buddy. And we also got MTM, whom we call her that because she brings us the moments that matter. And because her name is Madison the Magnificent. Say hello, Madison.
Hello, everybody.
And if you're watching us on YouTube or on a podcast, we love having you here. But a little something about this show that makes it different is that it's actually a community. Mm-hmm. So the best way to do it is go to nyais.com, sign up, put it on your calendar, show up one of these days so you can hear your name in what, GC?
The roll call, baby.
The roll call, baby. We got Madison welcoming everybody to the show. We got Lee, the MVP Bishop, saying good morning, afternoon. When he calls himself the MVP Bishop, he takes away my thing of being like the MVP of the community.
It's a boss move.
It's a boss move. Just owned it. We got Tony D in the house. Anthony Dida from Jupiter, Florida. We got Leo Faraganan.
Dun, 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 dun.
Faraganan.
Dun, 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 dun.
Shout out to Jen Filson for that awesome song. Leo says, let's rock. We got Donna Chica in the house. She's back. Hello, all you wonderful people. Hello to you. We got the ringmaster of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, Drew Barnhill, in the house. We got Bill Shields with his
patented Buenas tardes, amigos.
Buenas tardes, amigos. Buenas tardes, Bill Shields. We got Bill the Mountain Man Green.
All right, we got the Mountain Man here.
Saying hello from the mountains of Colorado. We got Danette Colvin in the house. Danette's back. Good to have you. And we got the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show, the patriarch and matriarch, Ken and Carolyn Maline. We salute you. And Maddie Rigar says hello from JWB. Is Maddie part of the team?
Yeah, Maddie's part of the team. Great to have you, Maddie.
Maddie, good. I love seeing the teams, the team on board here.
It's amazing.
But you know what I really love?
What do you really love?
My favorite moment of the week. When Madison shares good news.
Hi, everybody. So I've said it before, and I will say it all the time. This is my favorite news to share. And if you haven't guessed it, I'm going to tell you. JWB Cares contributions from you amazing clients, investors, people. In the last 2 weeks, we have raised $300 in JWB Cares donations from you guys from putting houses under contract. Now, I've told you guys that this is my favorite kind of news to give, but I never really gave you a backstory on why. When I was interviewing to be a JWB, I was telling Greg how much I like being in the community and all that stuff. And he told me, oh, well, that's perfect because we have a foundation called JWB Cares. And then told me how that the company raises funds and then their big contribution to the society is gifting a house to a K9 for Warriors veteran. So I, of course, like, wow, that's so cool. But this year I got to be a part of the house giveaway ceremony, and it just made JWB Cares that much more important to me. So it's not one big contribution of like $50,000. It's the little $100 here, $100 there from you guys that really make a difference. So thank you guys for being so awesome and giving me good news to share.
Well, that is pretty awesome news. I remember that interview. You absolutely rocked that interview. And I remember when we were talking about the charitable arm of what we do and as our community, what we all are really, really inspired about. It was a lot more than just, buying a house, selling a house, renting a house, doing all those things. For you, I really saw that it really mattered about the impact to the community. So amazing that, it's come full circle now. And when you get to choose what the good news of the week is, that's your go-to right there.
I'll pick this every time.
Madison, the storyteller. I like it, Madison. I like how you presented that. And that's good news.
Sure is.
All right. Cool. Well, as we move on to, hold on a second. GC, you got some papers in front of you. There must be some breaking news.
We got some breaking news going on over here. We're doing a little thing. I don't know if anybody's heard out there, but JWB is doing a little incentive right now. And it's caused a little bit of a firestorm of activity here. A lot of you have taken us up on this incentive package that JWB is offering right now. Yesterday alone, we had 3 new clients go under contract and take advantage of this incentive. And so I'm going to relate the incentive for all of you again. If you haven't heard, this is the largest incentives package JWB has ever offered to help you make a really wise decision to build your rental portfolio as we go into 2023. So we're giving about $10,000 in incentives. And that's in the form of a few different things. Number one, JWB is paying 2% seller concessions. And all that really means is that 2% of the sales price, we're going to give to you in the form of cash. Basically, it reduces the down payment and reduces the closing cost that you have to bring to the table. So that's worth about $5,500 right there. JWB is also waiving the first tenant placement fee for clients who put those properties under contract. Call that about a $1,500 value of money you do not have to spend within the first month of ownership right there. And then the real kicker here is we talk about maintenance costs. It's a part of this investment. Nobody likes to pay maintenance costs. I know you don't like to pay them. And you would much rather somebody else come in and pay your maintenance costs for you. Well, that's what we're doing as well. So JWB is making a $3,000 contribution for all the clients who put properties under contract here as we go into the new year. So that's $3,000 of maintenance costs. If and when they happen for you, that will be on JWB's dime instead of yours. Put all that together, it's about $10,000 in value. And all you got to do is make a good decision and put a home under contract now through the end of January as well. So this is going to be, and the reason why we extended it that long is because number one, we are never all about a rush decision. We're never, that's not the way that we market and we sell. It just doesn't feel right. But number two is we wanted to make this available, not just for current clients who have already shared their goals and resources, and we've already sort of onboarded you. We wanted to make sure it was applicable for those who may be thinking about working with JWB, but you haven't called us yet. Usually the onboarding takes a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. And so this is absolutely attainable for all of you out there, whether or not you're a JWB client right now. You can start the process. You can reach out to the team. Can set up a time to speak with us. And even though we're all going to be a little bit busy over the holidays, we can definitely have those conversations so that you can put a home under contract and take advantage of this incentive.
You said the word hotcakes?
Did I?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Is that what I thought?
I don't know.
What does that mean? I heard Max is on a winning streak out here, just slanging properties left and right because of this incentive.
I think so. He's not the only one.
I mean, good for you, right? Like I good for the JWB team. Like you talked about it on the client only call, right? Like this idea of like, hey man, let's finish the year on a bang and give the sales guys a good Christmas and go with some momentum going into next year, right? It's
Absolutely.
pretty cool.
As a marketing guy, which I am at heart, when you put something out there, an incentive, the worst thing is you put a really good incentive out there and then nobody notices. So we certainly are excited that other people are taking advantage of this as well. Like we've talked about, this is not normal. It's the biggest one we've ever done. We don't do incentives typically. So this is done for all of you out there. It's done for JWB as well. So we can just roll right into 2023. Hitting a real high note.
Got a couple questions here from the community. Donna is asking if to qualify for the incentive, do you have to close before the end of January or simply open escrow by end of January?
Donna, thank you so much for the question. You do not have to close by the end of January. You simply have to put a property under contract before the end of January.
There you go. That's a big deal. And then Danette said, did you say the end of January? So it's through the end of January.
Through January 31st. You have to put a property, any number of properties, there's no limit to it, but all properties that are put under contract from now and through January 31st are open for this incentive.
I got one more question. What qualifies as breaking news? Because I feel like we've already broken this news, GC.
Yeah, I know, but you got to give me at least a couple of times to break it. I'm a marketing guy at heart. I can't just let this thing just sit there. I promise I won't break it every Thursday, but
always breaking stuff around here.
Not everybody pays attention to every single word we say. So I'm just reaching out to those folks who might have been just passively non-paying attention. Hopefully I got it now.
You got to repeat stuff. But I also heard I heard there's some other breaking news, GC, some good news over here in the city.
Yeah, man, having the mayor here on Tuesday was such a special moment for all of us. Thank you all for the outpouring of love and support and all the positive things that you guys have been saying. I got text messages and emails from friends and family. I know you did too, right?
Yeah, my parents watched it, man.
Yeah.
That's the first time my parents have watched the show.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty
cool.
awesome. They watched it live?
Huh?
They watched it live?
They tried to go live. They couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But then I sent them the YouTube live.
Nice.
And they watched it on the big screen.
We will take that. One of the things that Mayor Curry was talking about is, how important it is to bring high paying jobs to Jacksonville. And when you think of high paying jobs, you think of fintech jobs. And all of a sudden, Jacksonville has become this hub for fintech. It was funny when he was talking about it, he's like, nobody even said the word fintech like 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
I remember.
Right. And, and Jacksonville has been under the radar for being this fintech hub, but we have FIS, which is a Fortune 500 company headquartered here. It's one of the 4 Fortune 500 companies that we have here. And there's just other great news of specifically of fintech companies coming into downtown Jacksonville. So just wanted to pass along some great news. PaySafe, which is a payment processing company, is bringing 600 jobs to Jacksonville. They are relocating their North American headquarters to Jacksonville. And this Jacksonville City Council just approved a bill, which is going to give them a really nice incentive package, which we also talked about the benefits of incentive packages along the way. And the thing that jumped out to me, these 600 jobs, obviously that's critical. Those jobs will be coming to Jacksonville in the coming years. And those jobs have an average salary of 150 grand. Yeah. Okay. 150 grand. So if you get 600 jobs headquartered in downtown Jacksonville with an average salary of 150 grand, and you own rental properties right around there, which all of you JWB clients do, it's a really good thing for everybody.
That sounds like something that is raising the median income.
You know it,
right? Like if you had 600 average 150,000 paying jobs, like that seems to me that that would raise the median income, that raises property prices all around.
You know it.
Win, win, win.
The master plan's coming together.
Any news of whether that's in downtown or not? Is the headquarters in downtown, or are they just moving here?
Well, they haven't chosen a spot just yet. Okay. So maybe that'll come up on the next breaking news.
Maybe we'll
I hope it's downtown. I hope it's right next to one of our buildings. That would be pretty cool.
Or in one of your buildings.
Maybe. We might have to add on to fix 600 in there, but we'll see what we can do.
All right, I think you got enough space down there. All right, GC, you ready to go for the property?
Let's go, baby.
Before we do that, I have a riddle for you. What does this property have in common with what we do right after the show?
Oh, because after the show, we be eating.
8413 Eaton Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida, 322.
That was really good.
Yeah, you like that? I'm glad that you caught it, man. 8413 Eaton Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida, 32211. It is a $260,000 home. Monthly rent is $1,588. It's got 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. This is a big one. 1,555 square foot. It is constructed. Construction status is finished. Leasing term of 2 or 3 years. This beautiful best-in-class cash flow market. Annual appreciation rate of 4.6%. And of course, what the JWB not your average investor family comes for really is this IRR of 14.8%, which I'm sure is has something to do with the fact that there's this 10K buyer incentive package. That's why we got this astronomical IRR. But GC, what do you love about this property?
I thought you'd never ask, man. I'll tell you what I love about this property. Well, the thing that I love the most about this property is what this asset can do for you compared to your other options right now in the investing landscape. And if you are a part of the Jacksonville quarterly housing update and economic outlook, which we just did a couple of weeks ago, we talked about 3 things that you should be doing as you are making investment decisions going into what is very likely to be a recession. And the first thing that you need to do is you need to look for opportunities to turn equity into income. Turning equity into income in recessionary times is really important because for the economy at large, income is scarcer, right? You don't have as much income when recessions happen. And if you can put yourself in a position to go away from just maybe thinking about this dollar amount, this pile of money that you may have in a retirement account or in the stock market or whatnot, and turn that into real dollars for you on a monthly basis, that helps you sleep better at night. That puts you in a position of strength from an economic perspective. And a lot of you out there have that opportunity to do that. An asset like this is a great example of turning equity into income. Think of money that you may have in the stock market. Those are equities, right? They're not producing income for you. You can turn that into income here. And depending on the strategy that you employ to purchase this asset, right? This could be $1,000 a month of income, $1,200 a month of income. So turning equity into income. This allows you to do that. That's the first thing I love about it. Number two, it's capital preservation. That's what you should be focusing on going into a recession. There are certain assets that do better in recessions. There are certain assets that don't. And the stock market does not typically do well in recessionary times. 7 out of the last 11 recessions, the stock market lost value. And so for all of you who are saying it's been a rough ride in the stock market up until now because the stock market has lost between 15 to 20% of value, well, guess what? That's not even in a recession yet. And so playing the odds, there's more pain to be had there. You can put your money into an asset that consistently performs, like rental properties like this asset. So that's the second reason that I love it. Capital preservation is a very strong quality of rental properties in general. And then number three is beating inflation. It is really hard for investors out there to beat inflation now. And the reason is because inflation is so high. Typically inflation is like 2% or 3%, and we don't typically talk about how important it is to beat inflation. But right now, inflation is 7.7%. And if you're not beating inflation, no matter what return you're earning, you're actually losing money. It's a really important concept for everybody to understand. All right, if you're earning 4% or 5% or 6% and inflation's 7.7%, you're actually losing money. So you have to be putting your money in places where you don't have to take a tremendous amount of risk, but you can earn more than what inflation is. And so with this incentive package that we have, that allows our IRRs, our returns on investment, to go way above what inflation is. And so I hope all of you take us up on that offer for the incentive package, because this same property, if it didn't have the incentive package, would have roughly maybe an 11% return, which is still beating inflation. We still love that, but you can get extra points of return simply by making a good choice now.
There you go. There you go. A lot of love about this property. GC, I'll head back to that because we got a question here from Sean Fletcher. Sean Fletcher here in the chat says, gotta ask, what's up with the 1-car garage? Is that unique to Florida or Jacksonville?
Not unique to Florida or Jacksonville or this neighborhood, actually. That is a 1-car garage is very normal. If we drive through this neighborhood, you'll see a lot of them. Garages in general, we get a lot of questions about garages. Oh, do I need a garage to rent the home? Do I need 2-car garage? Right. And really what you need to do is work with a partner who knows that landscape very, very well. If you have a garage in an area where there are garages are not normal, you might have a carport, you simply are going to be able to earn more rent from the garage. If you are in a neighborhood that every single home has a garage and you do not have a garage, that might be a little bit unique, but all you have to do is reduce the rent. Right. So garage, no garage, it's okay either way. You definitely want to work with a partner who knows that area well to see how big of a difference it is. And then if you do have a difference, you just have to equate it with the rent that you charge.
There you go. Lee, the MVP says you don't need a garage for a snowblower in Jacksonville. That's accurate.
That's true.
You love your garage, GC.
I do love my
That's
garage.
That's like your place of joy.
It's like the one thing in my house I can control and keep clean. Yeah. And yeah, you like my garage too, huh?
Yeah,
clean,
your
right?
garage is full of cool toys. Like you got like the golfer. Anyways, it's not a garage. GC's garage show. GC, you mentioned equities into income, right? Like that makes me think of a couple of things. You mentioned this idea of money in the stock market, right? Like if you just have stuff there, makes me think of kind of earlier this year how I cashed out that IRA and I put it into rental properties. But there's other places that people have equity, right? Like you can't eat equity is what they say, right? So like, what are the other areas that folks may have some equity that they're may just have laying around?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is the equity that many of you have in your homes. All the homeowners out there, especially over the last 2 years, have seen the market value of your home jump dramatically. It's been the biggest increase over a 2-year span, as far back as we've been tracking it, and farther back than that for sure. So you all have a tremendous amount of equity. I think of equity in my home as just another tool to accomplish my passive income goal. And so, and that's the same way for you. Some people will say, listen, I will never access the equity in my home because I don't want to take out debt. But at the same time, they may never actually get to their passive income goals. Yeah. Right. I think that there's a risk mitigated way to do it, a conservative way to do it. But if you're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity in your home, you can take out a loan product that might be a home equity line of credit, or it might be a an actual loan, like a refinance of your property. And what you're able to do is actually access that equity. Then you can use that equity to buy assets that produce income, just like this property here at Eaton Avenue. This is actually what I do with my own property. I've done this for, almost 17 years that I've been doing this. And so what I'm able to do is, instead of just looking at my property value minus what I owe on the house and saying, oh, well, geez, that's nice, I have equity in my home, which does nothing for me in terms of accomplishing my passive income goals, I'm able to take a conservative approach, and I use a home equity line of credit. I then borrow that money from the bank at a lower interest rate than the return on investment I can get by putting it into an asset like this. And I'm able to make a return on that investment every single year and, turn that into passive income.
Awesome. So anybody that's basically owned their home for like 5 or more years probably has a decent amount of equity, given that it's been going kind of bananas, right? And I haven't done that.
I mean, so values went up 15% from last year to this year in Jacksonville, and it's gone up a lot across the country.
So maybe 2 years it's worth just kind of like picking up the phone. What's the phone call that you need to make? Is this like a call your mortgage broker? Is that
But, if you have questions, we're happy to help guide you.
Yeah.
And so you can call our team and we can kind of guide you. This isn't something that you're going to go to a JWB lender. Many times your local credit union. That's what I use here in Jacksonville. I have a relationship with our local credit union. It's not a credit union that would ever do a loan for like an investment property, but they focus on primary residence home equity lines of credit.
Got it.
And so, but yeah, so typically your local credit union, a bank that you have a relationship with, is a great place to start. And what they'll do is they'll lend out a certain percentage of the equity that you have in your home. And so you can look and say, okay, well, if they lend out 90% of the value of the home, let's just keep it simple math. Let's say that your house was worth $100,000. They'll say, well, I'll lend up to 90% of that for a home equity line of credit. And so that would be $90,000. You'd see how much you owe on the property. You might owe $60,000 in this example. And so 90 minus 60 is 30,000. They will give you a loan for $30,000 at a lower interest rate than 14.8%. And then you can use that money to go and invest in an asset like this one, or private lending, or any other type of asset that can turn it into, income and beat inflation is probably a good thing to do.
There you go. What about, so I've kind of talked a lot about this idea of like, I cashed out an old IRA. What we haven't talked about that I find interesting is like, what about if I'm employed, I have a 401k with the company and I've had it for like 10, 15 years. Maybe I have 200K, 300K in there. What about those 401k loans? Is that something that also counts as like turning equity into income?
Absolutely. I do the same thing. So at JWB, you guys know how much we love real estate, but within the JWB 401k plan, we cannot invest in real estate, right? Irony, right? So, but that doesn't mean that I can't use the 401k that I've earned for being an employee of JWB and put that into an asset that can create income. Just have to know a little bit more about that 401k. Most employers out there, for your 401ks, it's very common for you to be able to take a loan against your 401k. And so this is what I do. And so basically they'll lend, and for our 401k, they lend up to 50% of the balance of your 401k.
Okay.
So the key thing here is, many people who are listening are probably saying, well, am I withdrawing this money from my 401k? Do I have a penalty to pay? Do I have to pay the taxes on this? The answer to all that is no. The money in your 401k is still in your 401k.
Still accruing, still, whatever, probably not really appreciating in the next year or so, but like still doing what it's supposed to be doing inside the 401k.
Well, let me, I don't know exactly what you mean by that.
I'm just saying like the money's still in the 401k,
yeah,
right?
like the tax savings and benefits that you got.
And if I have a whole bunch of like Vanguard funds that I purchased and like a couple like international funds, I still own those funds, and whatever those funds are doing are still going to appreciate or depreciate according to the market.
Yeah. So, well, let's just say that you had $100,000 in your 401k and you wanted to take a loan out against that 401k and to turn it into income. So let's say that the 401k allows you to take a 50% loan. So $50,000 of your 401k, you may still have in the stock market. It may be in those funds that you talked about, or or whatever you want to do. It's there. Stocks,
Okay.
bonds, you get like 10 choices.
Yep.
So that's still there. The other $50,000, you take a loan out.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo, the 401k, gives the loan to Pablo, the person.
Okay.
So it's still your money.
Mm-hmm.
And then that $50,000 in that example goes from your 401k into your personal bank account.
Okay.
And then that personal bank account, you can then make choices to turn that into income.
Okay.
So then you could take that $50,000 and use that towards a down payment on this house on Eaton Avenue. Or you could do private lending, or you could put it in anything that would create income. And what happens over time is there's a schedule for you to pay yourself back. So every paycheck for us and for me, I pay myself back into my 401k. And then I think the loan's in place for like 5 years or something like that. So over time, it gets paid back. And
How have we never done a show about that?
man, that's the future is bright for the Not Your Average Investor Show. We got a lot of stuff we can talk about.
That's awesome.
But most people don't know about that.
Yeah.
And that's really critical because, for a lot of this concepts about, using your retirement account to invest, people will say, well, I don't want to lose the tax benefits. And then they'll say, well, my 401k is with my current employer. And you can't just switch it from your current employer and take it out, because then you would lose that match that you continue to get going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's typically not the best thing for people to do. Well, this is a way that you can stay with your current 401k in your current employer's 401k. You continue to get the match going forward. And all you're able to do is to access a portion of that and turn that into an asset that you want. That's not limited by what your typical 401k choices are.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the fees are super simple. It takes like 2 seconds for us to do this. It's this way for a lot of people out there. And the fees like $100 or something to do this. I mean,
That's
it's a huge opportunity.
Cool. Sweet. All right. More about that coming soon, I'm sure. Because like I'm shocked, like we've never gone down that path. So
Yeah.
I'm pumped to talk more about that in a show. Ken Moline, you may be familiar with him. He is the patriarch of the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show. Yes. He asks, can JWB recommend a Jacksonville bank that out-of-towners can go to for a home equity line of credit?
I'll tell you the one that I use. I don't know. I haven't thought a lot about this for other people. I think this is really kind of a Jacksonville thing, but Ken, I would just encourage you to reach out to your portfolio manager. I'm sure we could ask that question multiple times, and we'll do our best to help you. The one I use is called One-to-One Financial Credit Union, which is kind of a Jacksonville thing. So you can look up One-to-One Financial, but reach out to the team. We'll give you a hand.
Cool. Sounds good. We got a question coming in from the mountains of Colorado by Bill Green, the Mountain Man.
The Mountain Man.
Yeah. He asks, so it's possible that Max, his JWB sales guy, might be able to guide me to a trusted place to tap a HELOC on my personal property that has 100% equity. I just feel like I'm wasting opportunities sitting on the zero mortgage, but I'm liking not having the debt.
The Mountain Man.
The Mountain Man.
Mountain Man. Such a savvy mountain man at that.
Yes.
He's talking about this concept that we all have these goals, and passive income allows us to get to our financial goals. It's not just about this pile of money that you have sitting out there somewhere. Because if I think about his comment right here, he's like, well, I got a pile of money, which is really just equity in his home, but it's not doing anything for him. He's not using that tool right now to increase his monthly income. And when you increase your monthly income, that's financial freedom, right? So he's like, I feel like this is just wasting out there. And so he's looking for ways to access the equity that he has there so he can turn it into assets, just like we're talking about. So Mountain Man, you get it, man. So can we help? We definitely can help. Reach out to us. I know that if we don't have an exact home equity line of credit, lender, for you in your specific market, we're going to give you guidance on what to look for and what questions to ask. Our clients have used this over and over and over again. So just reach out to the team, Bill. We'll give you a hand. And for others who have similar questions, whether you're a JWB client or not, you can reach out to us. And, if you haven't had the opportunity to speak with our team yet, just go to chatwithjwb.com. Talk through these possibilities, give you as much as we can. We won't know exactly where to go in every single market, but we'll tell you what to look for.
Yeah, Bill, and I think you and Leslie can hook up over there in Colorado. And
that's true.
I know that she knows her stuff real good. So I don't know if you're part of the Facebook group, right? But go to jwbfacebookgroup.com or go to Not Your Average Investor Facebook group, and you'll be able to connect there. What about that second part of his question? I just feel like I'm wasting opportunities sitting on the zero mortgage, but I'm liking not having the debt. What do you say about this idea of like liking not having debt?
I can relate to that as well. I'm glad you pointed that out because I missed that. I was just so fired up about the Mountain Man's comment there.
Mountain Man.
So, I get it, right? We all like not having debt, but, I think financially free beats debt free. Financially free beats debt free, right? The ability for us to look at debt and to look at equity that we have in our homes as a tool to help you get to your financial freedom, I think is really important. It's much easier for us to just put our heads in the sand and say, listen, I don't want to have a payment. It's just much easier. But the reality is, while that might feel easier and it is easier, think of the costs, right? The costs along the way, right? If you could turn that into $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, what would that do for you? The opportunity cost of just sticking our heads in the sand and saying that we're never going to take on debt and resist debt has a real opportunity cost as well. And that doesn't mean that everybody needs to run out and take on debt every single chance you get, but just recognize that there is a cost to not doing that. And depending on what your goals are, might make sense. I think surrounding yourself with folks who know how to use debt as a tool in a smart way, in a conservative way, is one of the best things that you can do in your career and your investing career to help you get ahead. That's the people who know how to manage debt. They get ahead.
Yeah, man. That really makes me think of this journey that I've been on and just the different conversations that I've had with you and other people in our communities. And it just seems like this financial engineer lifestyle is a real thing, right? Like I know many morning runs, like we haven't talked about this idea that you take your 401k and lend to yourself to buy more properties, but we have talked about kind of how you use your flex spending account, right? Like it's like a health spending account of how you manage that stuff. And there's all these different like levers. And as long as you are locking in a return that is higher than what your debt is, and it really pencils out and you're locking that in, and there isn't this like risk of it blowing up and going upside down, or at least the risk is heavily mitigated.
Right.
Then I'm starting to just see that everywhere, right? Like there are the ringmaster Drew Barnhills of the world. And then there is who does this at a max with like credit cards and doing that type of stuff, like really aggressively. And it's going great for him. And he's come back from a tough position not that long ago. And then there's, more of a middle ground like you, who just kind of like, you look at every single little angle to add a little bit of juice to the stuff that you have and how you can just keep compounding that, and how over time that just like makes so much sense. It's been really, really eye-opening to understand, to go from the first time I asked you about it, when you were just like, when I asked you about, does it make sense for me to cash out an IRA? Like, isn't that bad? And you're like, well, that's what your father's father would have said. I remember you saying that on one of our first runs. You're like, that's what your father's father would have said. To now just really just seeing through it, right? And just seeing that it's all numbers, and there's a whole bunch of like preconceived notions from the general public and a whole bunch of like rules of thumb. Like I remember when I was setting up my first 401k, they're like, and then there's a way to get a loan, but you don't want to do that.
Right. Exactly.
Instead of just saying like, instead of really explaining it. And that's kind of what this show is a lot about, right? It's like cognitive bias is real. If you see other people doing something, it becomes very, very real to you versus just hearing about it, something. And being able to like interact with people in the chat, and like people in our Facebook group makes it very, very real, makes it very, very approachable. And I just think it's just like giant advantage.
I do too. And being exposed to this type of thinking is one of the best things that ever happened in my life. And I remember the way I thought prior to this, and then the way that I have thought since. And it was about the people I surrounded myself with when I was 23 and 24, and I was fresh out of corporate America and onto this new and exciting world where people thought differently and they acted differently. Yeah. And it was like the pill in the Matrix, man. Once you took that pill, you just can't go back. And I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for our community because, I'm not the only one who thinks this way. You're not the only one who thinks this way. We're surrounded by folks who are not your average investors. And I just think there's power in that.
Yeah, super powerful. And Somebody just checked in the chat. It's our favorite name to say.
Oh, yeah?
Into the lights, Aaron O'Neill.
To the lights.
Welcome to the show, Aaron. Good to have you in there. All right, Leo has a question for us. Federal Reserve raises interest rates by 50 basis points. What is your take on this one? Did that happen, or is he saying that in jest?
No, they just approved a 50 basis points raise, which was the expectation. Let's call it over the last 2-3 weeks. That's what the Fed has been signaling. I think this is consistent with what the Fed has been saying. It's consistent with their approach. A lot of what the Fed is saying now is that we have a long way to go to beat inflation. But, they have a really tough job because in their quest to bring down inflation, the tools that they have don't actually show up in the economy for some period of time. Yeah. So the risk for them now is knowing that we have so long to go to get inflation down. How high do we raise interest rates, and do we create this whipsaw effect that we, damage the economy too much? And really hard for them to know that. So they're using the best data that they have, but they have been saying that continued rate increases are what they're expecting. They hope that they can decrease the size of the rate increase, right? Let's all keep this in perspective. A normal rate increase, rates don't increase every time they meet. It's very abnormal for them to increase every single time they meet. When they meet and they increase them, a quarter point is almost always what they raise. So they are trying to not go to extremes here, even though they have an extreme problem on their hands. And so I think this is gonna be here for a while. They are not. People were excited a few months ago about rates potentially coming down, and sometime soon. We talked openly that there's a long way to go, and I thought that was unlikely. The tide and the rhetoric now from the Fed is we got a long way to go. Don't expect rates to come down anytime soon. We are hoping that we can decrease the size of the increases so that we don't artificially hurt the economy, but expect more rate increases coming.
Which means a couple of things, right? Like Denny Davis is saying, markets didn't like the Fed chairman's verbiage. The stock market is getting absolutely getting creamed today. If the Fed is saying that they're gonna, it seems to me that when you raise interest rates, stocks take a beating, right? And it sounds like there are more interest rates happening.
The stock market it would be so nice if there was like when this happens, this happens. So much of what we see in the stock performance after Jerome Powell speaks or in other things when earnings come out is what was the expectation versus what actually happened. So it's not always like when interest rates go up, stocks take a beating. It's like if people were expecting something different to happen and it was worse, then it takes a beating. The biggest news that is coming from here and what Denny's talking about with what the Fed chairman said is it's a lot of what I just said. Yeah. We have a long way to go. Don't expect interest rates to come down anytime soon. He was sort of raining on the parade of like, hey, listen, people were super excited about, inflation coming down and interest rates coming down. He has said, don't pay attention to that. He said it's going to be a long haul. I think he gave some indications as to how high he thought interest rates would have to go. And I don't know if he said this or if I just took this from the Wall Street Journal article I was reading last night, but right now we're at about a 4.5% Fed funds rate due to all the increases that the Fed has raised. And there's the article was talking about getting close to maybe low fives. So, and then staying there, next year. And then maybe, who knows, at some point in 2024, maybe coming down again. So this high rate environment that we're in, and again, for everybody who might be new to this conversation, when the Fed raises the short-term borrowing rates, that has an effect on long-term rates. It's an indirect effect, but it has an effect on long-term borrowing rates, which are mortgages. And so that shows up on your property evaluation, for the properties that you're purchasing. So when you hear that inflation is high and you hear that the Fed is going to raise interest rates to try to quell inflation, what that means for all of us as investors in real estate and other long-term assets is that our mortgage rates that we have to pay on the properties are going to be higher than we want, especially in the short run.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting, man. I got a question, GC. It's not for me. Because as you can tell, I have got this microphone in front of me. I got these headphones here. I'm an expert here on TV,
Yes.
but I have a friend
Okay.
that thinks this would be a good opportunity to clear up like language.
Okay.
And my friend is a little confused as to like what the difference is between like a percentage of interest rates or what a basis point is or what points are. Can you explain that to my friend?
You know what? Your friend is a very astute gentleman, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are asking those same questions.
Maybe,
And so
maybe.
I welcome the
I'm
opportunity
sure somebody
to clear it up a little bit. So, all right, so let's go. So basis points. So that's just the percentage of a percent. So 50 basis points is a half percentage.
Okay, so 0.01% is a basis point. So
Yes,
50 basis point is
1% is a point.
0.5%.
0.05%. Yeah. So 1% is a point.
Okay.
So 1%. So when we're talking about, and 1% is 100 basis points.
Oh, so a basis point is 1/100th of a point, and a
Yeah,
point is 1%.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. So one point, it means it goes up 1%, and if it goes up 10 basis point, it went up 0.1%.
0.1%. Yes.
Okay, there
Yep,
you go.
there you go.
Well, there you go, friend.
There we go.
Yeah, hope you got that.
Hope your friend joins the show sometime.
It took my friend a minute, but I think my friend got it. So I hope his friends got, or hers got it. All right, cool. Mountain Man Bill Green is back in the house.
Mountain Man.
Bill Green also has a friend. He's asking, do you guys think that the prospective home buyer market will adjust their acceptance to these higher interest rates and financially relent and jump back into normal buying patterns? Does this question even make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, and finally relent.
And finally
relent and jump back into normal buying patterns. People make decisions on the best thing for them. So I think, it's less about, so when people are buying homes for themselves, it's a different decision than if they're buying based on an investment.
Yep.
Right. People make decisions on where they want to live, the type of house they want to own. Can they afford it? Is really the question that has to be asked. And so as long as homes are affordable in your market and incomes are there so people can afford them, people will continue to buy homes because it's really what they want for their family. At the same time, demand definitely has been dampened because interest rates are so high, but it's not because people look at homes and say, I don't want to buy it because the interest rate is 6% or 7%. It's because they can't afford it. So an affordability is very different in Jacksonville than it is, in other parts of the country. So, it's a very market and very person specific answer, I would think, to that question. A lot of it comes back to how affordable your market is, and the incomes are a big driver of that, and how much home prices and interest rates have gone up is a function of that. But I think people will continue to buy because people, the majority of people want to own a home. And especially in a market like Jacksonville, like I can tell you, we have had our retail sales, meaning that we sell a small portion of our homes on the retail market. We have sold more homes on the retail market in the last 3 months than we have for the year before. And homes on the retail market are still selling very, very strong here in Jacksonville. Many people might not know that. So the retail market is still strong, even though interest rates are this high.
Interesting. So when it comes to retail, it's just necessity for home buying, right? It moves the needle very little as far as like if you got to move because you're getting a new job, then you've priced in this idea of accepting the job,
Yeah, right.
And,
you got to move.
And what home you're going to get, and you got to move, or like you have a kid, or, like whatever, right? Like it's other externalities. And what you're saying is that the retail market in Jacksonville is still strong. How do you define still strong in Jacksonville, the retail market?
I mean, you can look at the number of home sales that happen every single month. I mean, we had 2,500 home sales for the last couple of months in Jacksonville. To put that in perspective, prior to June of 2020, we had never had 3,000 home sales in Jacksonville. So you look year over year and you say, wow, 2,500 home sales for the month of October. It's strong.
Yeah.
And so, Yeah. And then, but to your point, right? Like, so people will make this decision based not just on interest rates, they're not nearly as interest rate focused. It's on affordability. It's what does their job do? It's what's right for their family. And do they just have a baby? And then they also look at their alternative, what they would have to pay in rent to live in that neighborhood as well. And so if that's pretty close because rents have gone up so much as well, people will buy that home because many people know that if you buy the asset and hold on for a long haul, it's a better financial investment. And the other thing is like interest rates right now, while they're higher than all what we want, historically, they're still pretty normal. Like this is pretty normal. When I started to buy investment properties back in the day in 2006, my interest rates were higher than they are right now. So we lack a little bit of perspective there. It's pretty normal. And the other thing is we live in this amazing country where the banking system and the government really support home buying. Yeah. And the way that they do that is they give us the opportunity to have 30-year mortgages in place where you can refinance at any time. So you take all that into equation and people are still going to be buying homes if all those other things line up that it's a better move. And then, if and when rates come down in 2 years and 3 years, like, they just get to refinance at that point. And this idea that interest rates were too high today, it's not even real at that point.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting, man. That's really interesting. To me, it speaks to the fact that the retail market is so alive and well here. It's kind of what we talked about with the mayor, right? Like a growing city is risk mitigation. Yeah. Right. Like a growing city is risk mitigation. If you're in a place that people want to live anywhere anyways, and it's not just like Memphis or Birmingham or these other places that people are buying just because it's a good investment. Right. Right. Like that is peace of mind, right? Yeah. Like we have all the tailwinds of all the things of everything that I've been raving about, why I'm so happy I moved here 4 years ago, in our favor as investors. Not just as residents here, right?
100%.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. Great chat happening in the chat right now about crypto, folks. Leo and Drew going back and forth. Really, really cool. I love the fact that we have like multiple content streams. We have what we're saying up here. We got the great questions that the community is asking, and there's always like stuff going on in the chat. Sometimes it's purely social, sometimes educational, but I love the interaction with the community. Speaking of a great community member that asks great questions, Michael Santorios is back. He says, Greg, as an investor in Florida real estate, is there anything we can do to help with the Floridians lawsuit reform if we don't live in Florida?
Michael, is that the bill that was just passed about limiting lawsuits from insurance companies or lawsuits from being directed to insurance companies? You'll have to let me know. I don't know exactly what Floridians lawsuit reform. Yeah, yesterday sent to the government. Give me a little bit more insight into Floridians lawsuit reform. I don't know it by name. So maybe throw that in the chat and we'll get back to that.
What's the one that you're thinking about?
Yeah, so there was some really good news that's just hot off the press. I'm a little bit unprepared, but I think the House passed a bill that is going to Governor DeSantis's desk to be signed into law, and this is limiting the lawsuits that
that's the thing that's driving up the insurance
rates,
right?
Exactly.
It's the lawsuits for like roofs and whatnot that are driving up the insurance rates. It seems like there's some good progress on tempering that is basically
ton of good progress.
Cool.
Ton of good progress. So Whitney Ritchie is our insurance teammate. She's the insurance teammate for many of you. And we were on a text yesterday and she was saying that she felt really good about the big things being solved through this bill. It's a big win for the insurance world. She felt like this would eliminate a lot of the carriers that have been going out of business. And one of the stats that I saw when I was reading this article was that 7%. Oh man, I might screw this up. So give me a little bit of space if I don't get this exactly right. But I think it was 7% of all insurance claims in the state of Florida from the country are in the state of Florida. So 7% of all the claims are in the state of man, I think I'm screwing this up. 7% of all claims in the country come from the state of Florida, but 76% of the lawsuits are for properties that are in the state of Florida. So like what that shows is that there were a lot of loopholes that, lawyers, could just sue for a lot of things on Florida properties. So they closed a lot of these loopholes, and there's 3 or 4 major things maybe I'll get a little bit more
Yeah.
insight the next time we talk, so you guys can have some interesting, but some really good information here. But the good thing is that we knew that this was coming. We've been getting a lot of questions on the insurance space. We knew that it was a temporary issue because the legislature was getting involved. And I don't think this is going to drop your insurance rates right now on your renovated properties, but this will keep more carriers in business, which is great. And then maybe hopefully over time that our insurance rates, specifically on renovated properties, this is all it's pertaining to. New construction homes, you don't have to pay attention to this, you're not affected. But older homes, renovated homes, insurance rates have skyrocketed, and we're hoping that should come down over time.
Got it. Michael sent us some information here. This seems kind of like it's got like a political angle to it, so I don't want to I don't want to get too into it, but it is what you're talking about, right? It is the reform of frivolous lawsuits and attorneys' fees. And Michael, I think that would be a really good question to put in the Facebook group, because I know Whitney Ritchie's all over this thing, and she's all over that Facebook group, and I'm sure that she's doing cartwheels and would be happy to, you know, get you involved in some way, because she's definitely championing the effort. I've seen it on her LinkedIn. I've seen it, you know, like she's definitely like leading the advocacy on this.
Awesome.
Stuff. So check her out, Michael. GC, before we get out of here and, you know, go stuff our face, let's go back to Eaton before we go Eaton.
Let's go Eaton.
Is this property available?
This one was, so the funny thing is that once we started to do these properties of the week, you know, my team has like a little funny thing. They just like to mess with me a little bit, I think. And I think we're like 3-4 weeks in a row now that the property is sold, like, you know, like 30 minutes before we go live here. And before that, it was like, you know, every once in a while the homes would sell before and not, you know, but for the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's definitely been like 30 minutes before.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think my team is trying to mess with me and making sure that the property of the week is sold right before we go live on the show. This one is sold. So congrats to that client that just picked that home up. I hope you're live on the show. We super appreciate your trust. The good thing is, for anybody else who is interested in this home on Eaton Avenue, there are other homes that are exactly like this one. New construction, same IRRs, similar price points. You go down the list, almost replicas. So if this is something that's interesting to you, just get on the phone with us. We've got other assets that'll be able to be added to your portfolio just like this one.
There you go. Big dog got Eaton. You know what I'm talking about?
No,
So pick up another property. I think that's a good sign, right? Like sales velocity is picking up here, right? Like I kind of see it as, when this is happening, it means that, you know, homes are being moved, inventory is being moved. It's probably a good thing to think as a client, that other people are doing the same things. And
the funny thing is that we've changed our process so much here to avoid that, because we wanted to have these things live. You know, if you go back like a year ago, I would prepare the property of the week like a week in advance. And, you know, and then we got on the show like 3-4 times in a row, and we're like, well, you know, that one's sold. It's somewhat normal. And then me and you were talking, we're like, well, why don't we just come up with the property, like, you know, a few hours before, a day before, or whatnot. And so then we started to do that. We're in the same spot.
Sometimes you're just too good. Bill Green Mountain Man with a comment here in the chat that's worth saying. He wants a Jacksonville property with an alligator pond.
With an alligator pond?
Mountain Man wants to be a Florida man.
I feel like he could be an alligator wrestler.
I bet you could.
You know, what couldn't Bill Green do?
I mean, I'm sure he can wrestle a falcon down to the ground. So great show today, everybody. I love the community, love the conversation. Great questions. Never take it for granted that you're spending an hour here in the middle of a Thursday to like learn from me and GC and hang out and make this thing easy on us. So really appreciate it. Tuesday, we're talking about Christmas cash versus retirement income, right?
I gotta get cracking on that little case study I gotta put together.
I gotta get cracking on too. I didn't write the description for it.
Yeah, you better
get cracking. Gotta get real cracking on it. But it's gonna be great. We're gonna be weighing the benefits of cash flow today versus cash flow tomorrow, and what all that means. And I think it's gonna be really informative for the community. So we hope you join us on Tuesday. GC, I'll give you kind of last words here.
Just super appreciative in this season of being grateful. I'm very grateful that we get to spend, you know, this hour with everybody, just talking shop. I mean, this is what I love to do, and to be able to call this work is a real blessing. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for making this so fun. And yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll catch you on Tuesday.
Agreed. And if you want to be eating up that IRR, you can't think like an average investor. See you on Tuesday.
See you, everybody.